Hello everyone and welcome to this FSElite video with no other than Q8Pilot. As you can see, this video is to talk about FSExpo coming up in a couple of weeks, and myself and Q8Pilot is going to attend. So I'm just going to start with some questions and hand it over to Q8Pilot. I know you as Q8Pilot, but obviously you have a real name. For those viewers who aren't frequent with your videos, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. First, thanks very much for having me. I really appreciate it. Very nice of you. And thank you for the introduction as well. So it depends on what you want to know. So let me just, because I think a lot of people ask me, where are you from? How old are you? All that kind of stuff. So let me just, tell you a little bit about that. So I'm a Kuwaiti national. I was born, raised, and educated in the state of Kuwait. Obviously, I got my higher education in the U.S. You can probably tell from my accent. So
it's either you go and travel to the US, or it's normally you learn accents through TV like Friends. So you don't quite sound like Joey. So I presume it's educated.
Yeah, it's the Californian influence. I got my degree from, I have a degree in computer science, a minor in mathematics from Cal State University at Fresno. I spent 10 years of my life in the US, and I worked there for a while. And then obviously I came back to Kuwait, and I've been working in the banking industry for the last 23 years. Today, I'm a senior executive in the information technology field in banking. I'm married. I have 4 children, 3 girls and 1 boy. And I was born on September 25th, 1974. So that puts me at 48 years of age.
And a date that no one can really forget when your birthday is. So that's a pretty key date, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. Absolutely.
Fantastic. So that's kind of who you are during the day, but actually you're more well-known in the flight sim community for your YouTube channels and your community outreach. So where did all that start?
I officially started, or maybe the first upload, if you will, was about 8 years ago. And it was I still have the video on the channel. It's a very funny video. When you take a look at the quality of it, it was, I believe, the Aerosoft Airbus landing into Doha, Qatar. And I was very proud that, I've done this and I've recorded it and uploaded it on the channel. And I started telling everyone, hey, look at my new upload on my YouTube channel. And that was the start. But what really got me into flight simulation are 2 things. One is my passion for aviation, obviously, which started from a very, early age, but also my passion for teaching. I like to teach. I used to be a tutor back in college, and it's something I enjoy doing. And I remember one of the very first tutorials on the channel was how to modify the ILS angle in X-Plane 10. And I picked the wrong airport to do that. I picked Innsbruck, and Innsbruck is actually by design not aligned with the actual runway because of the terrain. And a lot of people went very hard on me saying, you don't know what you're saying, you don't know what you're doing. But a lot of people also said, this is actually very useful. We didn't know that X-Plane 10 had that feature. And I felt from that point forward that, I have a passion for something. When I discover something, I'd love to share it with the community. I'm sure others would want to know. Or running into an issue and finding the solution for that issue is something that got me into creating tutorials in the beginning.
Okay, so learning some hard lessons along the way, I'm sure. And where is the channel at now? So obviously you've been going for around 8 years. How has that grown?
Well, the channel growth has been, a pleasant surprise to me, quite frankly, because I never really thought that the channel would grow to such huge following. And it was never really the intention to monetize or to make money out of the channel, because it's really a hobby. And I'm close to 70,000 subscribers today and over 16 million views, which is, to me, when I think about it, it's like, wow, that's a lot. And I'm very humbled when I see those numbers, and when I see all the people coming and commenting and telling me, oh, this is great. I learned from this video. You inspired me to become a pilot. There are a few who actually became airline pilots, from about, 4 or 5 years ago. And this is really what keeps the channel going, what keeps me creating content.
Wow, that's yeah. Surely that do you feel some form of pressure to keep creating videos because of people like that out there, and some of those feedback comments that you get?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that just places a lot of pressure on me as a creator, but as someone who, there's a big responsibility on my shoulders today, because I know people are influenced by what I say. If I say something is good or something is bad, that's probably basis for them to go and make an investment, for example, in an add-on like an aircraft, or hardware or things like that. So there's definitely always that pressure, and for that reason, I always make sure that I purchase everything I review on the channel.
Yeah, and I suppose it always helps, the community, because that's the hard thing about software, right? Is it's very hard to get a refund if it doesn't fit the purpose of what you're trying to
Precisely.
achieve. And so, our readers at FSElite and your viewers on your channel are looking for those inputs that might, dissuade or persuade them to purchase a product. And I think, having your own investment in there, it's your money, you've made that purchase, sort of really kind of grounds you in that process, I think, and helps really, if you're willing to spend the money and you think it's a great product, people more likely are to, really take that on board. And I think, as a viewer of yours, I think that really helps kind of formalize a view of a product in my mind as a consumer as well. So that's always very helpful. So we spoke a lot about your flight sim experience and how your channel has grown. Where did all of this start? Where did your love of aviation come from? You mentioned it earlier about being an av geek from a very young age. Where did that start?
It actually started, I was actually very young. I had gotten my first Amiga Commodore computer. You probably haven't heard of it. Have you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, actually,
Oh, wow.
my parents have one in the loft somewhere. But yeah, I remember it was essentially, you'd hook it up to a TV, but it was essentially just the keyboard, right? And you'd put floppy disks in the side.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I
Yeah.
remember it.
Yeah. So with my Amiga Commodore, there was actually a very nice flight sim game with it, and that's what really got me started into aviation. The sight of an aircraft is something that just dazzles me, and I told my dad I always wanted to be a pilot. Back then, of course, we did not have access to information and media, or even the actual education. Aviation education was not available. And at the time, it was also very expensive to, to delve into such profession. But that love for aviation, love for aircraft, love for seeing some things flying, just kind of grew and grew. And it actually became even more acute after the Superman series. And that's why Christopher Reeve was my childhood hero. And I just love the guy. And, just seeing something fly was to me something very interesting. And when I was actually doing my studies in the US, I was very fortunate to come across a former US Air Force pilot who was retired and doing, instruction. So I started flying with him mainly, and that was the start of everything for me. It was just the feeling when you're in an aircraft and you pull the stick or you pull the yoke and the aircraft flies up in the air. That feeling is just unbelievable. And and the journey continued. And I've had, by the way, all titles of flight simulators. Every time there was a flight simulator for for the Amiga Commodore or for the PC. I remember Flight Simulator in '98 when it came out, and oh wow, look at that! And when the 2004 title came out, it's like I was, oh, that's even much better. Look at that! How, but more recently, I think 8 years ago, of course, there was a period where I was pretty much idle. The passion was there; it was in the back of my head, but then I was more focused on my career and building my career, and I really wanted to make something out of my life for my children, obviously. And you know how it is when you get married and you have the children and the house and the whole catastrophe. so so that has led me to kind of put it on the back burner for a little while until I was introduced to X-Plane. Of course, I've had FSX. I've used FSX for the longest time. And then I started getting back into it when I was introduced to X-Plane. And believe it or not, when I tried X-Plane 10 for the first time, I wrote the harshest review of X-Plane on Amazon. That's where I got my first set. So, and it was not a good review. And I really went hard on this plausible world thing of Laminar. And then there was a comment on my review saying, why don't you download this aircraft and this scenery and give it another go? Well, being me, I always have first impressions and allow them to change. So I said, okay, let me try that. And that was it. When I actually downloaded that aircraft, and I believe the first aircraft I purchased was the Flight Factor 777, the extended version. And that was it for me. I fell in love with the sim and started, to make the videos, and that's how I started kind of where I am today.
That's amazing. And actually, talking about some of those titles, FSX was probably one of the biggest advances in sort of the Microsoft brand until most recently. But there's some really great legacy sims, and you were talking about FS98 when that came out, and you just think, wow, it blew your mind because it was just utilizing the next thing. But looking back at it, and you just think, well, this is like 8-bit graphics almost, like compared to what we've got today. It's it always brings a warmth to my heart because that's almost where 95 was where I started in that sort of journey of flight simulation. You talked about doing some real world flying in your kind of journey into the role that you've got now. Have you ever thought about the career change when you're in a bit more of a stable position and flight training has come along a long way since then?
Absolutely. So I'm actually my retirement plan is geared towards that. So you know how it is when you retire. There are two options. One is you make everyone miserable at the house, or you find something to do. So that's exactly what would be my retirement plan would be. I'm going to get the type rating on the 737. It's my absolute favorite plane. So that is definitely something that I'm going to do after retirement. But I do a lot of occasional flying when I go to the UK, particularly. So mainly, I have good friends over at the Elstree Aerodrome, and when I'm there, normally for the holidays, they, get me those nice pipers, and we fly from Elstree. We go for every other day. We fly there, and it's good fun. It's good fun to have a real feel for an aircraft.
Fantastic. So, wow, 737 as a retirement plan is pretty interesting. Normally that works the other way around, doesn't it? Pilots kind of go, well, I'm done with that. We're done with the retirement now. I'm going to have the quiet life, and as you say, sort of sit around the house. That's really interesting. And Elstree is the opposite side of London to where I am. The UK is a great place to fly, particularly in light aircraft. Not necessarily within London. You don't quite get that far in. You need special transit authority to get into the city. But there's enough light aircraft fields, around London to see the sights, but quite from a distance. So it's really interesting that you fly from Elstree, because I did a land away at Elstree with a friend, so I wasn't flying, but a friend of mine did a land away at Elstree. It's a great little hub, always busy as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and not too far away from where they shot Star Wars as well, so that's quite fun.
Yeah. And the nice thing about Elstree is it's in close proximity to Gatwick and Heathrow, so you get to see all the big birds landing. It's a great airport to fly from.
Yeah, and it's surprising they even do lessons there. So learning to fly in such a busy airspace like that, and they really are on the cusp of those airspaces. And you've got such restrictions that if you breach them, they'll pretty much come down quite hard on you if you fly anywhere near them, which is understandable. I think there's also a reason why you have to have special transition to go over the city. So we've spoke about real world flying. We've also talked about your journey in flight simulation. Looking forward, what's on the horizons for you, the channel?
So generally speaking, you mean what am I planning on the channel? And
yeah, well, what gets you excited about certain prospects in the future?
So definitely, as far as the channel is concerned, I plan on making a lot more reviews and tutorials. And I think when I did the channel originally, I think what really got the channel to where it is today are the tutorial videos. And I think people enjoy the format that I adopt in my videos, which is less talk, more instructions. I don't. If you go to any of my tutorials, I don't talk about things. I don't digress. I say this is a tutorial about this, and now this is how you do it. 1, 2, 3, done. So I think I want to do more of that, and I think that's what really people, because this is again, it combines my two passions: the passion for aviation and the passion for teaching. And definitely, I'm looking to do more hardware reviews as well. So flight sim gear has really become, it's become very advanced in recent years. Again, with the adoption of the hobby, the flight simulation hobby. And it has not only become very advanced, but some of it is actually very close to the real thing. So definitely lots more hardware reviews are coming on the channel in the foreseeable future.
Nice. And actually that's probably a great segue, because a great place to see what's coming up and get hands-on with some of this flight sim high quality hardware is FSExpo, which at the time of filming this is in a few weeks' time. You're heading out there to the Expo. I'm really excited. This is my first US Expo. I've been to FS Weekend and I've been to Cosford here in the UK, but I'm really excited to go stateside down into a very warm Texas. I think you'll find the weather, fairly similar to where you are, but I will very much struggle. It's very different to London. But what takes you to Expo? Why is it that you're visiting? You're not exactly traveling a couple of hours down the road, are you? It's a very much halfway around the world for yourself. So why is it that you're visiting Expo?
That's a good question. So there are many reasons, but the number one reason is I really want to meet everyone. I want to get to know people. I want to give the opportunity also to the channel followers to come and say hello to me in person. I want to meet people like you, the guys, working at FSElite, Laminar, AnyBuilds. I can't name them all, but I'm really excited to see all these guys because those are the people that make up the industry. And it would be just really an honor for me to meet all these people. Second reason is my visit there is a visit that underscores my continued commitment to the hobby, to the flight simulation hobby. And I am there not just as Q8 Pilot, but I'm there as a representative for all content creators. And in fact, all content creators are more than welcome to come at booth H7. And, if they want to display something, if they want to make an announcement at the booth, they are more than welcome to do that because I am really representing all of them, all of those who cannot go to FSExpo. I'm there for them and will deliver their voice, obviously, to everyone over there. I know a lot of the, the content creators, at least that I watch, will be there. And I'm quite excited to see so many names, so many content creators who will be there. And of course, I go there also as a sponsor of the event, as a platinum sponsor of the event. And the reason I decided to, this is, by the way, the first time I go to Expo. The first time I was only a sponsor, and this time I'm a sponsor and exhibitor. And the reason I sponsor these events, and I made sure that I sponsored both of the events, the previous one and this one, is again my commitment to the hobby. And I know that this is a forum that will bring everyone in the community in one place. And to me, that's very important, that there is no divide in this community. There's more amalgamation of everyone. We see often when you, for example, upload a video on, say, X-Plane versus Microsoft Flight Simulator. Just imagine the war in the comment section. And there's so much divide when people go and say, "Oh, this sim is bad. This sim is realistic. This is like." No. We share the love for flight simulation, for aviation, and that should be a place to bring us all together to share all of our experiences and our likes and dislikes about the hobby over in one place and really have a good time.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? And it's always the way in forums and comment sections, and there's lots of opinions out there, and that's really great. But I feel like when we're in a big room together, we can have those discussions and almost take things with a pinch of salt, rather than getting quite emotional in as people do it in certain comment sections. And it's always hard to voice your opinion without coming across in a certain way. I think it's a lot easier to do that face to face, so we can engage with these really great conversations. But yes, I can imagine the war if you were to post a video like that. Hence why you haven't, right? Hence why you've not voiced an opinion on each of those, which very wise to do. So I'm very excited to go to Expo as well, and of course to meet you. And we spoke about your community outreach and a chance to provide a platform for some of the content creators that won't be able to make Expo. But is there a particular booth or an announcement that you will try to catch or try to meet? Is there one thing out there in Texas that you're really excited to see?
To be very frank with you, I'm very excited to meet people like the guys behind Laminar, Thrustmaster, Virtual Fly, FSElite. I've never really, I've had a lot of interactions with, with you guys, maybe over email. Thrustmaster, I've had a lot of interactions with them in the past. Virtual Fly, the same. But, I'm really excited to meet those guys in person. I think it's very different when you meet somebody in person rather than, over emails or, a video call. And I really want to have fun, Jordan. It's something I'm doing for me. So, when you decide to take a break from everything and you do something, you feel that you've earned it. To me, FSExpo 2023 is something that I've earned, and I'm treating myself to it. So I just am looking forward to having a blast, relaxing with some fine folks over there, and try the Texan food. Yeah, that's
Nice. Texan food, something I'm really, really excited about. Some real Southern barbecue is going to be certainly one of the requests from our team is that we're going to try some barbecue. So I'm really excited for that. So you spoke about that you're having a booth, H2, I believe you mentioned.
H7.
H7, sorry. So as a guest at FSExpo, and I come and see you at your booth, what could I expect?
All right, so good. That's a good question. So first of all, I will be having on display a couple of flight sim gear that I will be actually playing with live, and I will be telling people what I like or dislike about them. So that's going to be a lot of fun, I guess, for me. And for whoever comes to check those out. Of course, an opportunity to have chit-chat about flight simulation, answer any questions that people may have, whether about the channel, about add-ons. And also, I will be doing giveaways, a couple of giveaways. One will be a exclusive Q8Pilot merchandise, specially crafted for FSExpo 2023, so you won't find it anywhere else.
Very exciting.
So everyone who comes to the booth will be given that. I have also a special gift for some of the content creators that will be there. And also there will be a giveaway, a couple of giveaways, one sponsored by Thrustmaster for the Boeing pack. So the entire pack is being given away, courtesy of Thrustmaster. And the Q8Pilot channel is also sponsoring a giveaway for the Honeycomb Bravo throttle.
Wow. Very cool. Very exciting. The immediate image I flashed in my mind is someone, visiting Expo, whether they're from, getting on an internal flight from the US or further afield with a great big box of Boeing gear under their arm, getting back onto the plane. So it's it's quite quite funny. Nice bulky gifts for the prize winners, but some really great gifts, even so. Wow, so lots going on at your booth, but also some live reviews, which will be quite interesting to see. I wonder how many times you'll have to go over the same information. I wonder if on the Sunday afternoon you'll be in need of a quiet space in a room, because lots of people will be coming up to you asking you lots and lots of questions.
For sure.
And so if you were to fast forward a few weeks' time, so after FSExpo, and you're looking back at your time, what product announcement would you have really loved to have learned about at Expo? Now, I guess we must preface this thinking that people might expect that we know information ahead of schedule. I haven't been told any relevant bits of information of releases, and I'm sure you haven't by some developers as well, because there's always the risk of you announcing a product way before it's actually announced at Expo. So if there was a product that, out of all of the products in the world, an aircraft or a scenery or a utility or even a simulator, what would be that product announcement that you would have liked to have heard about at Expo?
Obviously, I do have access to some information that I cannot
In that
share.
case, I would
Obviously.
keep that quiet.
Yeah, so I'll keep that quiet. But what would really entice me is if we get a release date on the A380 by fly-by-wire. That would be big news if they announce it there over at the FSExpo. That would be something really cool. I know there is a 757 coming along nicely for the sim for Microsoft Flight Simulator. The EG 737 would be nice to get a release date on that one as well. I know it's in the making. I know the guys are working on it, but again, they went quiet after the first announcement or the sort of news that, they announced that they're working on it, and then they went pretty quiet. But from the hardware perspective, I think we've seen a lot from, Thrustmaster, Virtual Fly, but there's one thing that is currently missing, I think, in this realm, in this spectrum of things. And that would be for those who love building home cockpits. If you look at, for example, a 737 cockpit, if you wanted to create that on your own, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. There were a few attempts by certain manufacturers to create a sort of a desk-based 737 cockpit, same as Airbus, but those cost an arm and a leg. They are very, very expensive. And I'd like to finally find an announcement of a hardware product that doesn't cost that much and that fulfills this. So I can get, for example, a semi 737 experience with an overhead panel and the major components without really having to pay that much as an investment. Obviously, you can have tiers, and if you want something that it very closely resembles a 737, then you have to pay. And those can get really expensive. For example, if you look at Virtual Fly, Virtual Fly offers very high-end products. And I'll tell you, I've been using Virtual Fly products for years, and I absolutely love their products. They have a very realistic feel to them, and they just feel like the real thing. If you've tried their rudder pedals, they feel just like the real, at least like a Piper, rudder pedals. I like the Thrustmaster stick. The Airbus pack from Thrustmaster is excellent. And I love the Honeycomb flight yoke, which I've been using faithfully for the last 3 years. So, but I'd like to see something a little more revolutionary, I guess. Get your 737 home cockpit for less than $5,000, something like that. That would be something that really gets me going.
If you were to, and you're right, a home cockpit, you're looking at the same cost of flying the real thing almost, aren't you? Really, for
Pretty
a really
much.
in-depth thing, you may as well go and do type rating on the 737, which obviously is something on your plan. Would the affordability of a real home built cockpit at a reasonable price would that change your retirement plans, do you think?
I don't think so. No, I think it would just actually help me get there faster, because then I will have something to train on before I'm actually there, and I'll go there with more knowledge, obviously. So maybe I can cut some corners and get to it a little faster.
Yeah, that's certainly an interesting route. I know a few people that have got real investments into these home built cockpits, and you, you must have got they must have got to a certain point and said, well, why am I spending all of this money? I could reinvest this same amount of money and go and fly the real thing. There's always been a question to me, but I'm quite thankful that they haven't done that, because I don't get the opportunity to go and sit in the seat as well and fly the thing. So I'm quite thankful that they have. And of course, accessibility to flying is always tough. And so I think that's where the simulation space really plays in its own realm, is because it becomes, it makes something that sometimes is financially unachievable or unattainable, and brings it into your home, so you can really get to grips with flying. And I think that's, the accessibility and affordability of flight simulation is always something that's at the forefront of people's minds. And I think those people that wanted to get into flying but that is quite expensive, this is a great alternative. And the more accessible that can be, and the more immersive that can be, or revolutionary, as you mentioned, will only benefit us all. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you've probably got a bit of prep to do before we head out to Texas. But Osama, thank you so much for your time, and it was really great to meet you through this video, but hopefully in a couple of weeks face to face in Texas.
It's been my absolute pleasure, Jordan. Thank you very much for having me. It's been a blast. I really enjoyed talking to you, and definitely look forward to meeting you over in Houston.
I'll definitely come by the booth.
You're most welcome.